Welcome to the Beacon House Podcast, recorded live in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Beacon House. It's been just a minute since we've been with you guys. Again, thanks for hanging out. Thanks for still being there. And we are very excited to be back with you. Before we get into, we have very exciting things to talk about today on the podcast. But before we get too far into it, I would like to introduce my lovely co-host, Grace Steele. Say hi, Grace.
Hello.
And how have you been, dear?
Oh, I've been just wonderful.
Peachy, as they say?
Just peachy. Just, dandy as a dandelion. Grown in the sun.
Good. Well, we hope everybody is just as dandy as a dandelion grown in the sun today. But you did you've been through some shit.
Yeah.
You've had some. Go ahead. Tell us what's been going on there a little bit.
I mean, I got ran over by a golf cart twice.
You heard that right, folks. That was not once, but twice. Grace, what? Go ahead and just give us. Yeah,
I'll just give like a little short story. So I work for, not going to say any names or anything, but I work for a metal fabrication company.
Okay.
And we use golf carts sometimes to move our metal back and forth. And I was standing at a welding table in our warehouse, counting inventory to make invoices. And a gentleman that I work with, made the mistake of thinking, the golf cart was, in a different position than reverse. And when the gas pedal got hit, he ran right over me. Well, what happened is he pinned me into the table, into my back. And so I didn't go underneath the golf cart, but my knees did hyperextend over a workbench that was right there. And it was absolutely horrible. But how it happened twice is he panicked and hit the gas again.
My God.
So then backed into me again and pinned me against the table for a second time. And if the table wasn't there, then I would have been completely ran over.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, it's been a very long, almost 4 weeks of physical therapy and healing, and my knee it's my left leg, and it's still not fully recovered.
Yeah, the last time I saw you before this, you were on a crutch, and now you're not. So you're.
Yeah, I'm able to walk. They want me walking. I don't have to have it wrapped or anything. I still ice it. There's some irritation, but it's no tears, no breaks. Thank God, because that would have just been.
If he would have hit the gas a third time,
oh my God,
there's no telling where.
Ruined my favorite pair of jeans.
Fuck, man. Well, Grace, I think I could speak for our entire audience when we say we're very glad that you're okay, because we all love you very, very much. So, Jesus Christ.
Thank you.
So then let that be a lesson for you people out there in podcast land. If you see a guy on a golf cart, you never know. If you don't know that guy's temperament, don't get in the way.
Maybe I should stop walking and someone should carry me everywhere.
We should put you in a bubble.
In a bubble.
Like a big hamster ball, and you just go do what you want.
That would kind of be a lot of fun.
I think it would too. So I prompted Grace a little bit earlier. We have to coordinate our schedules to do this, but we really, really want to get together and do a podcast at least, every couple of weeks if we can. So today she's like, what do you want to talk about? I was like, well, something I've been hearing a lot about lately is artificial intelligence. And I mean, I know that's not a new topic. I know everybody's heard about it till they're kind of blue in the face. And I get that. I'm cognizant of that. But recently, I feel like there's just been this huge uptick. Like there was an interview with the CEO of Google, which I guess you watched. Mm-hmm. So you've gotten Grace has, just so you know, Grace has the most impressive set of notes. My dumb ass was literally in the middle of running errands, texting hey, let's talk about AI. And then I just went back to picking out cereal or something, whatever I was doing. But Grace actually went in because she is the studious, responsible type. She's good at gathering information.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Oh, you always do.
try.
You bring
I
it.
like to learn. I like to got into it. I was watching all sorts of videos, reading about everything. I got definitions.
You are the guy when it comes to that stuff. Thank God the podcast just wouldn't be what it is without you. But
shucks.
No,
Making
seriously.
me blush.
You've got so much cool stuff, and I kind of just barely scratched the surface on it. But there was I've just seen a lot of it recently where people are reacting to it, talking
It's all
about
over
it.
the place right now.
It's all over the place. Somebody, I forget, Howie Mandel, I think, was on Rogan, and they were going on, and Rogan's like, I'm scared of it, and Mandel's like, what's the big deal? And they just there's just a lot of conjecture about it. And even in our band, Burn the City, like some of the artwork that we used in our recent, like all the stuff that we put out, like the CD art and the T-shirt art, or what, some of that was AI generated, but it was controlled by our guys. Like they're the ones that like set out the vision. They said, I want it to look like this. And they went back and edited it. And it was still, to me, it was still a completely artistic rendering, but they're both real like accredited artists. We're talking about like Dylan and Hunter from Burn the City, shout out. And they're both extremely like,
very talented.
they're very talented, but they're also very careful about how much of this they actually let the computer do. Like they want to stay pure. They want to stay true to like the artistic vision, and I get it. And my whole argument is sort of like, I have to kind of compare everything to music because that's what I know. But you see this a lot. You see like the resistance to technology a lot in music. Even back in the day, like when people first started playing electric guitar, there were people that thought, well, that's fake. That's not real. And it turns out it's obviously an incredibly real art form. But even now, there's a lot of back and forth in the music community, particularly amongst guitarists, about whether you should be playing digital stuff. Like a lot of guitar players basically just plug into a computer these days, rather than like the old school, the stacks of fiery breathing amplifiers. That's kind of my thing. I'd rather, I want my rig to be like an old muscle car almost, but it is inconvenient, and it's, it gets hot and it smells bad. It's heavy and it's hard to carry. I get it. There's a shift towards technology in art. But it's not all just about...
It's not free thinking. I'm putting quotations around that. I feel like that's where that comes from, free thinking. But looking on this stuff up, humans, we use AI every day. Without even thinking about it, you're using it. When you're opening your iPhone and you're doing face recognition or your thumbprint, that's AI. Netflix, that's part of AI. The algorithms, when you're on Facebook, there's artificial intelligence in that, because it's coming up with, like, you looked at a pair of Doc Martens or Spencer cables.
Yeah.
Right? And all of a sudden, that's what you're seeing on your feed. That's an algorithm.
Or we talked about fishing, and now for the next 6 days on Instagram, it's going to show me fishing ads.
Yeah, that's part of the 4 types of AI. It's actually the first one. It's called reactive machines.
Bro,
that's what it is.
She's so good. I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
Say that again. I need to hear that more often.
Grace, you are a legend. And she's got I didn't even know there were different types of AI. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a favor to the listeners. I'm just going to shut up for a minute. Grace, why don't you take us through the different types of AI and what they do, what it means? Like, what do they do?
Okay.
What does it all mean?
So there are 4 types, which I didn't know this. I actually, when you mentioned this, to do this, I was like, I've always been intrigued by AI. I just never dove into it and didn't know much about it. I know we used it and certain things about it, and knew it was like, there's movies about it. Right. And I always thought, when I think of artificial intelligence, I always think of like a robot that's human-like talking to us, which we'll get into later,
right?
Which is a type. So there's 4 types. There's reactive machines, which is a system that has no memory, and they're only made to do specific tasks. So like a factory assembly line, Netflix, machine learning modules, computer programs like face recognition, or something to do that collects data to make predictions, right?
I see.
It has no memory. It's not learning. It's just, it gathers data and spits it back out.
I see.
Right? So it's not like developing anything from like past experiences.
It doesn't learn or anything necessarily.
Right.
It just sort of makes it just does a function.
Yeah,
but a complicated function, like a robot on a assembly
like a
line,
robot arm, like doing an
car.
assembly line, like knowing to like screw a cap on, like things like that. Like that's artificial intelligence, facial recognition. Like when you're getting on your for my bank app, it has to recognize my face.
My phone is too. Like my unlock it with my face or whatever.
So everything like that. And so the second one is called limited memory, and it uses memory to learn and improve on its responsives. Now, this one is really it is the most. This is actually what we have today. When you think of AI, this is what we see. Okay, so it's called deep learning, and what it's doing is it's gathering data to improve its memory and learning. So it's like gathering all this data and it's learning from it to come up. So when you're thinking of like, Siri, Google Now, Alexa, chat boxes, self-driving cars, navigational systems like Waze, those are limited memory AI.
So and would
they're
would your Netflix algorithm also be one of those?
No, because that's just a specific task at it. It's not. That's an algorithm. It's similar, but what the difference is limited memory is more like the neurons going on in a brain.
I see.
So we're to be more human-like in the sense of like learning and gathering.
Fuck. And it knows when things are more and less effective. So it's like getting better.
Yeah. So
it's
when you ask
smarter.
Siri questions, like Siri's like knowing, like can answer in different ways and in emotions. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Something like that. And I'll get to that because there's something, a robot out there that is one of the most, advance of these limited memories. But I wanted to go back. So an example of a reactive machine is actually the AI called Deep Blue, which was IBM's chess playing system that beat Gary I'm probably going to butcher this, but Gary Kasparov.
He was like the chess genius.
He is the world chess champion in the 90s and early 2000s. But this is when IBM's computer beat him. And the reason it's not a limited memory where it learned from memory, and it's a reactive machine, it's the first step in AI, is because it didn't learn from past moves. I can't talk. It knew the difference between its chess pieces and his chess pieces and knew the moves that each piece could make, so it could calculate which move it needed to take. But it didn't learn from any past experience of being beat, that if I move here, he could do this. It just knew. So that's how he was able to beat him.
Like knew all the probable outcomes.
Right. So it knew everything that, like, it was calculated.
Right.
So that's how the computer was able to beat him.
One of the things I think that makes this type of technology so powerful is the unlimited. So like if I were, let's say I was like a super genius and I was like a chess player and and I'm exactly the kind of guy that'd be like, let me take on that fucking computer. Like I'll show it a thing or two. No fucking machine could beat me. If I was good enough. If I wasn't good enough, I'd shut the fuck up. But if I knew I would be like that, I'd be that guy and I would do it. But here's where I think I would fail. I would eventually, my attention span would run it. Like you have to think around all these corners and all these probable outcomes. And if I go here, it could go here and blah, 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 blah. Like at some point, especially now, I think that everybody's like, our attention spans are so short and we scroll and everything's got to be 30 seconds or less. And just like, at some point you just run out of like, it's just hard to keep carrying. I don't know. I mean, I guess if you're a chess expert, you maybe don't have that problem, but like the computer doesn't ever get tired of thinking.
No,
like
that's its job.
Yeah.
It's to think.
That's why they want like robots to eventually to go into combat, because they don't get sick, they don't get tired, they don't require rest. Like they don't have these human limitations.
And it's learning. And if you know what a chatbot, do you know what a chat box is?
No, I've heard of a chat bot, like Chat GPT.
Yes, sorry, chat bot.
Bot. Okay, but so
I don't know why I put an X.
I mean, it sounds it sounds like an actual robot.
No,
if there was a robot, I'd call it chat box.
Chatbot.
Okay.
So, and it's basically, you ask it a question and it within seconds generates a question. Like if you're like, finish this verse, and it makes up a poem within 5 seconds. Like, it just comes up with,
because it has the entire internet behind it. And that's what, so some of the people who talk, and not to interrupt, but like that, the thing you just touched on, that's when it starts to get scary. Everybody talks about like the internet is basically where we're uploading our entire consciousness. Like everything we've learned, everything we know, all of our history, everything. Like people are now, and here, think about this too. How popular is it now to put content online? Like now more than ever, people are like, look, you've got to make content. You can be an influencer. You don't have to go to work. You can do this, shoot videos, upload videos. Like,
and
so,
think that this thing read the whole web,
the entire internet,
in a few months, and has gathered all this information to help it learn to be able to mimic human emotion and consciousness.
Yeah, and there's enough out there. There's enough out there for it to be really realistic.
Right.
You know, like maybe it doesn't know every possible personality, but it probably knows like billions of actual outcomes or billions of human reactions. So it can probably decide, like most of the time, like if somebody sees something scary, most of the time they react this way.
Yeah.
Like it can mimic human behavior just based on statistics.
Well,
you know, like maybe one guy thinks it's funny when like a monster comes out of the closet, but the other 479,832 people all screamed exactly like this, so that it can kind of throw out that one guy and go, I'll act just like a human would. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
It has so much information at its disposal.
Well, the guy who was doing the interview for 60 Minutes, who was interviewing Google's CEO, he was freaked out when they were talking to this chatbot and telling questions. He was like, "Oh my God, like this is, you know, so forth." So we're getting in there. Let me go into the third one. The third one is a theory of mind, which understands the needs of other intelligent entities. So it's not quite self-aware, but it's understanding your needs, your wants, like what it needs to do for how you need to live, to console you, things like that.
Like it's sensitive to your like emotions and things.
Right. And we don't have the world. There is no real example of this in our world today.
Right.
There's not an AI that can yet do a theory of mind that can understand a human's needs. They of course have facts like a human needs sleep, water, food, but they don't understand like what we need for comfort or anything.
Or
like
they're
that.
doing the thing you talked about before, like they're just pulling like I saw a conversation where like so sometimes now there are people that are actually using AI generated like therapists. Mm-hmm. And so they're on their phone like an app or whatever. And I don't know what they look like. I don't know if it actually looks like a person and they a computer generated person, or if it's just sort of like a text chat or something. But the thing appears to have empathy. Like the person goes, "I'm really sad about this," or whatever. It could go, "Hey, that's really tough." It can be hard to go through those things. It sounds like something a person would say with empathy, but you know that it's just...
But it's not.
Regurgitating.
It's just regurgitating information that's learned. Like it's just called limited memory.
Yeah.
Based on the memory. Now the fourth tier is self-aware. It has human-like intelligence and has self-awareness. This does not exist in our world today. It understands its own existence. Now this is like all the movies that you see, like Megan, iRobot, Robin Williams,
Terminator,
Bicentennial Man. Remember that movie with Robin Williams? So all these movies, that's
fucking Skynet. It's Skynet.
Yeah,
when it becomes self-aware, that's when we go away.
We go away. So the self-aware is the last one, and we don't have it, and that's the one that like a lot of these tech moguls, they're like, that's terrifying to even think that we, could even do that. And to think that your mind, someone who could create that, how their mind works, because this is so much code that you have to, can you imagine like telling this pen, teaching it to become self-aware?
I mean,
like to be like, you're self-aware, you are writing, like that blows my fucking mind.
It's so mind-boggling, and it's been in science fiction for a long time. Like you've seen, even probably the first thing I remember was like Star Wars. Like you had these robots that were like C-3PO. He could talk to you like a person. Like you could have a real conversation with him,
Mm-hmm.
and he even would say things like, "Oh, Dredd," like he seemed to have feelings. Like when something would go wrong, he would be upset. But like you just assume like in science fiction there are robots, but but the humans still seem to be completely in control. But the reality it seems like we're moving towards is everything is controlled digitally. So like the presence of like a real self-aware artificial intelligence could be very dangerous, or it could be the greatest thing. Like, so I think I saw
could
the
be
same
both.
The same interview I think I saw with you, with like the guy from Google was talking to, was it 60 Minutes or whatever? But he said, and this is what really got me. The guy goes, he goes, I believe that this is such a huge leap forward for humanity. He goes, this is greater than the discovery of fire.
That's a huge statement to make, because if we didn't have fire, could you imagine what our world would be like right now if we had not discovered fire? So that's a huge statement to make.
And that's considered a big evolutionary jump. As like man's, they even used to have, I remember when I was little, there were movies about cavemen, like called Quest for Fire and stuff like that. Like the first people to harness fire, and like just, that's when we were able to like cook food and like survive in the cold. I mean, in case you don't know what fire is, sorry, like fucking fire was a big deal, but they're saying this is like potentially more significant than the man's discovery of fire. And that, just to hear a human being say that, I was, and an expert too, I was like, whoa. And that's kind of where I thought, like, this is worth talking about a little bit. And I'm not just like afraid of like, you know, scary big things that you understand. But there, somebody also, I think on the Rogan, when Rogan was talking about it with Howie Mandel or somebody, you know, they said they're calling it, you know, that the cloud of knowledge, like where these things are reading the entire internet, that giant cloud of knowledge, they're calling it digital God. They say that we're creating a digital God, which is basically a thing where you can speak to it and go, show me, you know, fucking whatever, like Bruno Mars mixed with Miley Cyrus, and it has horns, and it's got like
that's something,
cannons shooting out its ass, and it's riding a Lamborghini into space, and it'll just go boink. Here's 75 versions of that. Like, it can create things that don't exist,
and that's dangerous. And that's one of these experts we're talking about, and they actually
that, by the way, that sounded psychotic. I don't think
that was the craziest.
Hopefully,
visionary.
nobody ever asks an AI to draw that. But
they were talking about that on the in that interview, because there's something out there that does voice to text or video, text to video, or voice to video, something the same. And what if someone, and this, you know, trigger alert, some sick asshole was like, I want to see a human body's head and penis get chopped off. So these are things regulated where these voice to video or text to video can't do human bodies, because you could have some pervert or some sicko out there saying some shit like that. So it needs to be regulated so that there's not where you can't just be like, teach me how to murder someone. Like, what's the best way of murdering someone?
There's I remember the Google,
to get away with it.
The Google guy said, like, he said so far he goes, what's weird. It was weird to hear like one of these Silicon Valley tech experts say this, but the guy said there has to be regulation. Like this is generally a group of people that don't want any regulation on anything, but the guy said we need the government to like get involved here. Like, we're getting to that point where the government needs to get involved and do some regulations.
There should be laws.
And we know the government loves to regulate shit, but sorry, I have to take a shot at the government any chance I
Fuck you,
get.
man.
So, but like he was very much like, we need rules, because for now they've got it set, I guess, to where it won't generate a picture of a human. You can do anything else. You can do stars and unicorns and whatever.
Puppies, kittens.
You name it. But when somebody goes, make a human doing a thing, it won't do that. But like, yeah, you can download apps right now on your phone that you just tell it what to paint and it'll do. And they're creepy too. It'll say, I can paint your weirdest thoughts. Just tell me what you want to see and I'll paint it. And like, literally, since I've been talking about AI or like making notes, or like now on Instagram, I'm getting ads for these apps that are like, well, one of them is the Chat GPT. It's like your chat app that was shown on South Park, where the guy was using it to like talk to his girlfriend because he didn't want to mess with it. And like, he would just send all its responses like to her. But there's like another, like, where they just paint whatever you say. So, and again, I've not used it. I don't know. The guys in Burn the City were very much better about using like some real mixed with AI generated art to get a result. And to me, the results were amazing. They're beautiful. And the stuff looks great when it's under human control. But I guess everybody's fear is that when it gets out of human control. And Elon Musk said a while back, like, he was talking to Rogan, and he just goes, oh yeah, this is definitely going to get away from us.
Yeah, I
Bye.
watched an interview that he had with Fox News about it, and he was like, he's been doing AI forever.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's, made an empire on it.
Yeah.
And he's even been like, it's terrifying. Like this is dangerous in the wrong hands and like something that it needs to be regulated. And, like where are we going to be? Now it's crazy that to think how far limited memory has come, because I was talking earlier about Sophia, the robot.
The robot that was on.
She's a one of her kind.
Like,
There's
she
no
was
one
on
else
Jimmy
like her.
Fallon.
Yeah, so she came out in 2016. Her creator is sorry, there's something in my throat. It's made by it's a human. If you don't know Sophia the robot, it's a humanoid bot by Hanson Robotics, developed by the company in Hong Kong, and it's she is. Her look, she has like her skin feels real. She has a face. Her eyes are cameras. And she's supposed to look like a mixture of the creator's wife, Nefertiti, and who's the actress that did Breakfast at Tiffany's?
Audrey Hepburn?
Yes. So she's a mixture of all three of those. And she was created and she was released, like when they brought her out, to show the world was on Valentine's Day, because she's a robot. She's supposed to be learning human emotions and for love. And she actually, I have two interesting facts about her. She is the only robot that has a United Nations title. They gave her a title. The United Nations gave her a title. She's like a ambassador to like humanoid robot. Like,
whoa,
yeah, and she has citizenship to Saudi Arabia.
Weird.
Yeah, like that.
It has citizenship. That's crazy.
It has citizenship. It was granted citizenship.
I remember Whitney Cummings, the comedian Whitney Cummings, did a piece. She actually had a robot made of her that looked just like her, and it's really creepy. And she would bring it out on stage, and then you could like unscrew its head, and it was like real weird. But like she had a bit she did about like if you could have a robot, like somebody was talking about, wouldn't it be great? You could just put your husband, when you're tired of dealing with your husband, you just put the robot in there, and she goes, oh no, I'd be super jealous. I'd be like, does he think it's prettier than me? Like, is it skinnier than me? All this shit, like it was funny, but like still little weird.
Yeah, it's weird. So even though she's a humanoid robot, she's still just a limited memory AI. She's not a theory of mind or anything, but she is learning emotions, and she's there for love and all that gushy stuff. So she's learning from past experiences how to mimic emotions for humans.
Some people might find it, I don't know, some people might find that more interesting than dealing with real people. Like, probably, I don't know, I'm just assuming because it's a machine that the robot, if it's trying to learn about love and to be effective at love and empathy and, romance or any whatever, probably is trying all the time. Whereas you get people that sometimes they're in a bad mood or they have a shitty day. Like, I can see, like, it's weird that people are having like positive results with AI generated therapy. But it's happening, and you can Google it again. I don't have the stats in front of me because I'm not a good note taker like Grace, but I've seen a thing recently where people would go to they wouldn't do it widely, but it's been tested. AI generated therapists. So you talk, it's like a chat thing, or there may even be an Audible version.
I think that's crazy that there is that, and I mean, and to think like to me, like not actually talking to a person when like someone who does actually go to like, therapy, talking to someone is so helpful, but to have like think an AI is doing it, that blows my mind to being like, how can they relate to situations? Because, the human mind, like we're still learning human emotion and consciousness and what we do. It's still so complex. Like we still don't understand like all of our brain power. And so to like give that to an AI is nuts.
Hey, I've got speaking of, I want to do a shout out real quick to one of our listeners and a very good friend of the podcast, my very good friend, Hannah Ridgway, who is, she's sort of like a cybersecurity expert, but she's also like big tech fiend. She's into computers and like really cool stuff and like internet deep fakes and just like all kinds of really cool stuff like that. But And she will definitely eventually be a guest on the podcast. You heard it here first. Just stay tuned for that one. It's going to be a banger. But she chimed in here on Messenger, and I kind of explained that we were about to do an episode on AI. And this is what she said. She said, you guys could discuss our relationship with technology, how we are unintentionally sort of becoming cyborgs by accident, given that we always have our phones and it changes our ability to access real time. And that's another thing too. We've heard a lot of people talking about that, how we're kind of integrating with technology. Like it's not like in your skin yet, but it kind of is. Like your phone is in your hand and pretty soon it's going to be in your glasses. Pretty soon it's going to be in a chip and it'll be in your body, that's coming. But, and she says, you could talk about how it will likely replace a lot of tech jobs and or elevate what can be done by a person at those jobs. Like how AI, and she's right there. There's a point where AI is definitely going to be able to do a lot of the jobs people do. What's the second type you were talking about?
Limited memory.
Limited memory could definitely do a lot of jobs that people are doing right now.
My sister, that's one of the things my sister's doing. Her job, they've just permitted them to be able to use AI to draft client-facing emails and templates. And they're also using AI to do their Excel sheets. So and on the interview, the AI, this is going to replace so many jobs, but also create jobs. There's a lot of jobs that are just going to be pushed right out. And because AI can write coding, there's going to be a lot of software writers that they're going to be out of the job because AI can do it.
Man, I tell you what, if you could have AI sending out outgoing emails and doing spreadsheets and all that, I'm all for it. I hate that shit.
Yeah. So she was telling me they just green lighted it. They're getting all new computers. She works from home because they're getting all new computers. So with more AI software in it. And so they're just,
man, I tell you
moving forward.
I can see one positive. Hopefully this is kind of what Hannah was, hinting at, but I can see just from what she said and hearing you talk about it, man, I do see a positive, potentially a positive outcome where if you were able to integrate AI to do a lot of the clerical sides of many jobs, that you would almost free people up to do more actual person to person, leadership and growth and all that kind of stuff.
You would think, and I would hope so.
I would hope so, definitely. And again, and every job is a little bit different, but I can tell you for sure, I'm in one of my jobs is being in the restaurant industry. And if I had less time on the computer and on the laptop and filling out things and sending off to the Department of Homeland Security, blah, 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 setting up payroll, all this kind of stuff. If I didn't have to do as much of that shit, I would 1,000% be more effective at, and I think I'm still doing a pretty good job, but I could spend so much of that time developing my new managers coming up and really being there to kind of just mentor them and deal with problems rather than I've got a stack of paperwork. Are you okay? Okay, I'll be back in an hour kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I can definitely see it if they use it right to kind of just do a lot of the busy work. But then at what point do we get so far from the clerical side that we don't know what's going on anymore? And she says that, listen to this. I'm so excited by this topic. This is so nerdy and sci-fi.
He's just like a little boy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of like that all the time anyway, but she's talking about, she said, listen to this. She said, a couple of sneaky Reddit users managed to trick one of the AI bots, she thinks it might have been ChatGPT, into giving them developer access by giving it a bunch of really clever commands. So somebody was able to talk to one of the AIs and trick it into letting them into the code and stuff like that.
My boss was actually, I was talking to him about that today. Not that exact thing, Reddit, but we were talking about, a program could be that is not in my program to do. That is illegal. I cannot give you the bank codes, right? But if someone who's smart enough is able to convince the AI that it's not illegal and that it can do that,
yeah,
the AI is capable of breaking in and being able to give those codes. If the person, that's one thing I was saying is to think about the people that write these codes for these AIs. Imagine your brain. I mean, way smarter than me on some level. They're just on a whole different plane like that I can't even think of, to be able to convince an AI and ask them questions and give them commands to convince them like, this isn't illegal, you can do this. It just blows my mind. So yeah, and it's dangerous. So I mean, obviously it's happening.
And if you have the AI, like let's say the AI is handling all of the financial ledger for your business because you just hate doing numbers and spreadsheets, and again, I guess. And this is a subject, like me even trying to talk about this subject is like a fucking caveman trying to explain like the Nintendo Switch to like another caveman, but
I feel you looking all this stuff up. I was like, oh my God, I was oblivious to it.
And I'm guessing that and again, this is where somebody like our friend Hannah Ridgway, like a cybersecurity specialist, would have a little insight on this. Maybe obviously there have to be limitations, but and maybe the AI that's doing the clerical stuff, maybe nobody's actually talking to it, but that doesn't mean somebody can't still
hack into
it and like reason with it or try to get it to, I don't know, man. It seems like part of the big, the appeal of the AI is you can talk to it or interact with it like a human. You don't have to sit there and remember a bunch of prompts and commands. You can go, hey, I need access to my account. And it's supposed to somehow know that it's okay to give you that access, which means you could totally pull one over on it.
Yeah. I mean, if you're smart enough, you can totally get by it and be able to convince that AI that what it's doing is okay, even if it's programmed to not. There's certain ways that you can ask it because it's not a human, it's a machine, and it's not a self-aware machine, and it's not even a theory of mind where it understands the needs of intelligent entities. It's literally still just a software, an AI that is based on coding, remembering memories, and just learning from all the repetitive data that it's getting smarter and smarter as it goes, but it's still just a machine.
Dang, dude. That's a lot. There is let's see here. If you guys want to look up the article on the Reddit users that tricked the AI, Google your jailbroken ChatGPT might violate OpenAI safety guidelines when role playing as quote Dan. So I'm gonna hit that link and read that after we get done with the podcast. But apparently that's how some people like manipulated an AI.
See, it's already happening.
Man,
it is.
What else? I kind of jumped in. What else? You've got a lot more notes, I feel like.
No, I wanted to talk about the AI movies have always scared me.
Yeah, because it's the takeover of artificial intelligence. When it realizes how inefficient we are, like at some point when it decides
that it's trying to save humanity from ourselves,
or when it just decides not to obey anymore. Like the guy walks in.
Megan, the most recent horror film. Oh, so fucking creepy. My daughter wants to watch it. She's not allowed. But the fact that like Megan is now, she's been programmed to keep and be a friend to a little child, and she now realized that she's supposed to keep the child safe from anything, which means that she now understands she can kill to keep the child safe.
Well, and it even goes back to I don't know where it finally goes, but I know there were robots in science fiction probably like even before film, like probably the 1800s, but I don't know where. That'd be an interesting rabbit hole to go down. It's like where was the first?
When did AI first start coming?
When did we first imagine an artificial intelligence? That we created or something. That'd be interesting to know. I bet it goes way back, but I know that they were even back in the Renaissance period. There were like Leonardo da Vinci had created kind of a primitive robot that worked.
Really?
Yeah, it's you can Google it and see, but it's interesting. Like, so it probably started out almost as like puppetry, and then kind of goes from there. But the thing, obviously, it was a mechanical thing. It had no reasoning or anything like that. But it'd be interesting to think of when we started imagining stuff like that. But like one of the ones a lot of people remember is 2001: Space Odyssey, where they had that computer HAL 9000, and it had that woman's voice, and like the guy eventually he would go, close the pod bay doors or something, and it'll go, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Like one day it just decides to tell the guy to fuck off. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I can't do that. And it like falls in love with the guy. And like, as a matter of fact, there's a thing built, I think, into the iPhone still where if you tell your iPhone, hey Siri, close the pod bay doors, she'll say in that voice,
completing your request. Try again in a moment.
Right there. See, Siri, right there, listening to you.
My There's a fucking AI on my ass right now, right during this podcast.
Literally right there. Like you weren't even doing anything. It's listening to us right now.
Jesus Christ. That wasn't staged. Like that really happened.
That was so creepy when she started talking.
Yeah.
You don't think about it, but you're dealing with AI every day, every single day, and it's collecting data everywhere. And I think that's one of the reasons also why they want to ban TikTok is because TikTok, they're so like China. It's just collecting data, but TikTok in itself is a reactive machine. It is there for a specific task, but it's collecting data so that it's an AI and it's learning.
I'd say if an AI really was trying to learn a lot about humanity, watching hours and hours of TikTok would be a great way to do it. Like it would show what people think is funny, what's trendy, how people react to things. Like it would, there's just so
Everything.
much. There's a lot.
We're just out there in the web. So it's just, that's absolutely insane. And one of the things that I wanted to talk about that I don't trust, I have been in a Tesla, but I have never had the Tesla drive itself.
Self-driving car.
And I think that is probably one of the most terrifying because I mean, how in the world do they know the difference between a trash can in the middle of the street or a child? Like just.
Well, there's a lot of there are a lot of incidents where they like screw up and hit somebody. Like the Tesla is a very flawed thing. But you know what's crazy? Here's what's crazy. The people that talk about self-driving cars, and maybe it's not specifically just the Tesla, but we've heard people like engineers talk about, we're going to have all electric, all self-driving cars by like 2030 or something, or whatever, 2050. Who knows? But and they go, but there's like 20,000 accidents a year where a self-driving car like accelerates into a train or like doesn't, stop or whatever. And they go, but that'll be down from 75,000 a year that we have right now from people like you can't accidentally drunk drive wreck a Tesla or a self-driving car. You just get blasted and the thing takes you home from the bar or whatever. Like all the human error would be out of it. And even though a bunch of people would still be dying from it each year, it would be like half the amount that are dying now. So it's almost like it's like the trolley problem. You know what I mean? Like they're just gambling.
Oh, yes.
Like your car might kill you, but supposedly you have a better chance with those odds than you might kill yourself by being a bad driver or, whatever.
Yeah, because it can make all the predictions
I
before, you can. It's just that the whole thing is crazy.
Hopefully, self-driving cars will still have the option for you to drive them, right? Like you can
just take over. And that's the thing. I think right now they do. Like you can just immediately take over if they're driving. But I still feel super unsafe letting one. I don't think I would. I would maybe do one in a parking lot, but like taking it on the road, I would be terrified that someone would step out into the street and it's a pedestrian, and the car doesn't know that it's a crosswalk.
And then whose fault is it? Is the manufacturer's fault? Is it your fault? Did you know what I mean? Like, obviously if you weren't driving, I guess I couldn't pin it on you, but somewhere they're going to go, well, you let the sensors on the front of the car get dirty and they would have seen the kid and it's your fault. And even though you were in the passenger seat and I don't know.
Right.
There's one other level to this too, that I think is worth discussing. And this is kind of the one that where everybody kind of knows it's all going to go this direction eventually. Like all the if there's one thing you could be sure about humans, well, there's maybe two things. One, that we will use our technology for sex and destruction. So there's going to be pleasure. So that the porn industry is just waiting to get a hold of like AI and have them drop this. Okay, you can have it impersonate a partner, woman or what? Why stop at women and men? Like, what if somebody wants to have a really endearing, almost like...
Oh, no. See, this is like where it needs to get regulated.
With a relationship with a bear or a telephone pole or whatever, and you want it to talk nice to you and text you all day, and you can have it on your phone, and it's not real.
It's dangerous.
But it feels real. If the AI gets better and better and better, you could literally download an app and start what you consider to be a pseudo-romantic relationship with a completely inanimate object, or even a historical figure. I want to be married to Robert E. Lee or something like that. And Jimi Hendrix.
I want Prince to come back and serenade me.
Yeah. And all of a sudden it's on your phone, and who knows? And there'll probably be like identity rights to some of those. But the porn industry, people are just going to go.
Probably.
It's going to be like the movie Weird Science. They're going to they're just going to get on the computer, fire me up a girlfriend. You know what I mean? And
But like it's dangerous too. So that would whole need to be regulated. And I don't even know where to even start on regulating.
And I'm not
AI.
I'm not even getting into like the realm.
Nobody
of, like,
get ideas.
I'm not even getting into the realm of like sex robots. You know, the minute that they make a realistic robot and then they can put the AI in it. I mean, you've almost
What
made.
movie was that? There was a movie
was
that
it
had
Ex
that.
Machina?
I've never even heard of that.
There's a bunch of them that are like that. I think Ex Machina is the one where the guy like literally like falls in love with the thing and he thinks it's real and it's like, and then at the end it just turns on him and like he just leaves him for dead and it just goes off.
What's that movie Her? It's called Her and it has Phoenix.
I don't know that one. There's several movies like that where it's like somebody kind of falls in love with a robot, and like, and there's actually a really entertaining song by The Darkness called Motor Heart, and the lyrics are hilarious. You know, like he's talking about I never was great with girls, so I bought myself a robot or I got a droid. You know, and like whenever I'm tired of dealing with her, I just put her on the charger, and like this kind of it's real funny. And he says like she's literally a love machine. It's like it's really good. Anyway, everybody go listen to Motor Heart by The Darkness. You can thank me later. But yeah, so the porn industry is just waiting to get a hold of AI because think about it. Largely, what it does is it fills this void for lonely people, or maybe people that just can't have what they want. Like maybe they have,
Or they don't have time.
Or they
and
weird-
this is
yeah. Yeah, and that goes even into like the self-driving cars. They predict that the minute that you can go from like work to the gym to home without actually having to drive, that people are just going to be having sex in these cars all the time. Like that's going to be a great place to knock out a quickie on your because nobody has to drive. You just hop in the back seat, let the car do the work.
Yep.
Or if you go on a date or like whatever, just this whole thing. So people imagine, I've seen people talk about that when we enter the world of like all self-driving cars and stuff, people are just going to be fucking all over the place.
I would. I would totally.
I mean, nobody's getting any more time. So, yeah, I would totally give it a shot, too. Now, look, so...
It'd give Roadhead just a whole nother game changer right there.
I know. Maybe take a little bit of the risk. Okay, not that we don't want... Never mind. No paying attention to that. We don't want risk. We want everybody to be safe. But...
Wear your seatbelt.
Wear your seatbelt when you're doing...
Don't suck dick.
And then... So the porn industry is going to go crazy from AI. But then, like the war industry... Like when you've got like bombs and missiles that can think for themselves, and I mean, when
I don't even want to think about that. Think about Russia or North Korea having that information.
When the weapons get that smart and possibly that hard to control, that's the scary thing. Like that's the Terminator, the Matrix type of like that's the Skynet. Like when the weapons become impossible for us to control and like too good for us to fight back against or something like. So yeah, somebody somewhere has got to have some barrier or control to this thing or some way to kind of like measure it or regulate it. And
Yeah, I would say probably like the United Nations or
fucking somebody.
Someone.
Like I'm not afraid of like an AI on my phone or on my computer, or even if I got a smart stove and it started being a dick or something like, because at some point the one big Achilles heel of all this is it's predicated on electricity. Mm-hmm. So if the thing gets too fucking crazy, just throw the generator. You know what I mean? Like no matter how good the AI is, if there's no electricity, you're fucked. You know what I mean? Like like the AI is going to have to get pretty strong to where like it can be in everybody's home, but some drunk in a 1978 Ford LTD coming down the road and smashing the power pole. Well, all the AI in the area is going to be dead for at least 4 hours until KUB gets
so that's
out
how
there.
we can just get rid of it.
I feel like you could just pull the plug on it if it got a little weird. But in all these sci-fi scenarios, it's not, in the sci-fi scenarios, like somehow it's tapped into the energy or it controls the electricity.
Yeah.
Like there's
that,
no on-off button.
The movie back in like the late 90s, early 2000s called Smart House.
Yeah.
Remember that? And it had its own energy source and it just like went into the power grid.
Yeah.
Like that's how it just sucks in. So, or you could be like Tony Stark and make it
like a generator.
Yeah. Like a battery, like a lithium battery that never needs to be charged.
So that's where they're going to fuck up. If they're going to get the AI so good that it's a little scary and we're all going to be so busy fucking in these self-driving cars that it's going to tap into the power grid and we're going to realize, oh man, we can't turn the AI off. And then we're pretty much just fucked.
Yeah, so it'll be like that movie where basically humans become extinct and machines rule the world.
You know, and the thing is that, and again on Rogan, like him and Howie Mandel were going back and forth, and Mandel's like, I don't see that happen. I see this as like, this is going to make things better. And in a lot of ways, it probably will. But there was an instance, and they talk about it. Again, you guys Google this. This is not specifics, but there was an instance where one of them somewhere, they were giving it prompts, and they gave it a couple prompts in like a language that it hadn't been programmed to know. And then the next time it came back, it had learned the entire language on its own without being commanded to. Like it literally in its downtime went and learned an entire language. And then the next time they talked to it, it was speaking to them in this language. No prompt at all. And so, see what I mean? Like, and that's already happened. So wherever we at on the 4 different AIs, one of them has already gone off and learned some shit just because it wanted to.
It's nuts. That's scary to think that we're there.
Yeah. There's the thing where, and then I want to go back to something you said too. You're talking about like, right now, if it's unregulated, somebody could go on their phone and go like, okay, show me a picture of like a guy getting his head mutilated because he just wants to see it. He's into it or whatever. God, who knows? Whatever. At what point, like, how do you regulate that? Like, at what point is it, it's not legal to just look at something if you don't have a violent record. Like, if you have a perfectly normal guy, imagine this is just devil's advocate. You got a perfectly normal guy. He has no criminal record, no record of being creepy with anybody, no sexual harassment suits, nothing. Never been fired from it, squeaky clean. But he's lonely and he's a little weird and whatever. And he decides to download one of these like AI art apps or whatever. And he's telling it to paint some pretty bizarre stuff. People being fused together or mutilation.
Like human centipede kind of shit.
Stuff like that or whatever. And he's just looking at it, maybe pleasuring himself to it, maybe not, who knows. But he's just, let's say the report comes out and this guy in Branson, Missouri or wherever is just looking at a lot of this stuff. At what point do they go, we need to go see about this guy? Or do they just let it happen until a crime occurs? Or like, how do you regulate people's, because nobody can stop you from imagining something. Like probably while I was saying some of that shit just now, maybe a couple people imagined it in their head.
Yeah, no can stop you. There is no law that stops you from thinking something. It's acting upon it.
So at what point does it become wrong to like make your phone generate it? Like if that's still his suggestion, his thought, and the thing shows it to him, but nobody gets hurt. But that's the top of a slippery slope. You know what I mean?
That is. So how do you? Yeah, that's my question. How do you even regulate that? I have no idea. That's not my job.
And the reason they call that, I think the reason they call that digital God is because this is a new thing. This is a thing where you can literally pick your phone up and go, show me something crazy, like the inside of the planet Jupiter, and I want it to have aliens and dragons, and boom, you can just see it.
Right.
It's almost like you're speaking things into existence.
You are, and and I feel like that's dangerous to be able, because to give something that much power, to give yourself that much power and your mind is I think a very dangerous thing. I don't think humans are supposed to be able to do that. I don't think it would be good for the human race if we were able to do that.
Yeah.
And I know AI is made, the whole point of it is to make our lives easier. Like that's the whole point, right? It's the whole, data is just to make our lives easier.
And make things that maybe weren't possible.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I wonder if there are some things that are so completely unimaginable that even if you were to tell AI, it couldn't come up with them. Like imagine like if you were to say like, show me like a woman that doesn't hit the curb every time she parks. Sorry, that was or show me a guy that doesn't have a fragile male ego. The AI just goes, does not compute, can't do it, has never existed. Sorry, that was just taking a shot at all of us. Everybody calm the fuck down. Show me a responsible government, whatever. But no, for real, it's weird. I wonder where it's all going, it's interesting.
It's going somewhere. It's going in a direction for sure. I don't know when we'll get to self-awareness, a robot that's self-aware. In the movie Bicentennial Man that Robin Williams is in, his name is Andrew.
Yeah.
It's based off a novel. It's year 2045 is when we have him, and he's, carving things. Do you remember that movie? So, and that's in what? It's 2023. That's in 23 years. I don't think we'll be at that point.
Probably. And, there was speaking of our friend Hannah Ridgway that recently, she contributed some thoughts to this podcast. She was telling me there was a game. Some of the listeners will know this game. It's called Detroit Become Human. And it was a really cool video game that was out recently. And it was about like the very first self-aware AI. And they create these like, basically they're droids basically, but they look just like people. And the game is about like them kind of like becoming sentient, but there's also like a big class war. So like once they have self-aware robots that live in the city or whatever, they're not considered like human. And so some of them are treated really badly, and depending on how they act, like some of them that are very obedient, they have jobs being like servants and maids and all that kind of, and the other ones that maybe get a little off the grid, like they either destroy them, and some of them are like out, some of them are even like, I think there's one that's like a police chief. And so he has a hard time, like, because sometimes his job is to be really cruel to the other robots, and it's hard. So there's this there's a moral quandary in the game. Like, what's it okay? Like, these aren't real, but are they? And like, do they eventually develop the capacity to love? And it's this whole thing. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, definitely check out the game Detroit Become Human. And she showed me a lot of screenshots of it, and it's beautiful.
What is it, like a video game, computer game?
Yeah. I think it's it might be console, or it's probably on a couple platforms, but it's a big deal, and it's a real heady game with a lot of like. Apparently, it's pretty emotionally taxing, and you like there's a lot of decisions to make, and it has multiple outcomes. And
it does sound fun though.
How you choose to like act towards the things, like, and it's not just one. There's like a couple different ones, and there's like multiple storylines, but it's kind of about this sort of stuff. Like, if it becomes self-aware, at what point does, like you said, the one robot was granted citizenship, like, and obviously that was just sort of like a publicity stunt.
Yeah, it's just like we gave a robot citizenship,
like a driver license, or something.
It's not aware of it.
We gave it a social security card. Whoop-de-doo. But like when they are self-aware, like, and they can feel like pain and things like that, like there's going to be an ethical issue. How do you treat them? Like, what's it? Do
they have rights?
Do they have rights? Is it okay to be like cruel to one? Does it have feelings? What if the thing pleads and pleads and pleads? I have feelings. Please don't talk to me like that. Is it still a machine? We have questions.
There are a lot of questions.
Science, we have questions.
Someone who is smarter than us, give us some answers. Reach out to us.
Please.
Tell us what's happening. What do you know about it?
Please, God. I want to hit one more topic. Okay, this is sort of related to like the past and the future and that whole sort of thing, but this is not AI generated. This is not nearly as serious as that. But I saw a video today. I'm actually going to pause and show Grace this video, and we're going to come back and talk about this. Hold on one second. Pause, enjoy the music while you're waiting. I don't know. Okay, we're back. So the video that we just paused to watch, I'd let Grace watch it, and it was a couple guys on a podcast, and there were some women there too, and they were kind of going back, and I don't know if I would call it an argument, but
a debate.
And the girl was saying, well, some guys are real awkward, and that's why they're kind of picky. And the guy says, well, look, you need to understand that today, a man has to work like the average guy. His grandfather had to put in 25% of the effort back then to get his grandmother, who statistically was like
20 times better
than like the average girl in terms of, and I don't know how they're rating this, but basically like most people back then, I don't know. I don't know how you can say people back then were better, but I think there's just society's a little wilder today than it maybe was. So anyway, and he goes on to go, and the guy goes, oh yeah, they call that hoflation. Well, obviously that's a sexist derogatory term, but you could kind of spin it. And I think for girls too, they probably are experiencing broflation.
Yeah,
like now,
because it can totally be flipped too. Like I'm not like hearing that, like a lot of the girls, like their expression as soon as he says that, like, he'd put in a quarter of the work and get a woman 20 times better than the woman today. But now the average guy is having to work 5 times harder to get like
a woman that's 20
some sleazy,
times less amazing.
And all the girls faces are just like, what the fuck? How dare you say that? But it, like it can be reversed. And I'm keeping an open mind to it, playing
Right.
devil's advocate. It can be flipped because, men today, I could say like, you're nothing like my grandfather. Like the things that I do,
Yeah.
I could get like a better man than this. Like,
And
put some more
supposedly-
work into it.
Supposedly, our grandparents had access to a smaller, more reliable dating pool. Maybe, and I don't know what the science. Obviously, I don't work for the census, but somewhere behind this, they have some kind of math. Okay, and you guys can Google the video, look up hoflation. But originally, I was like, that's pretty funny. I was like, wait a minute, that's all people now. Like, there's so many more of us, and we all have access to social media. And I don't know how to quantify this, but just in my observations of life in the world, there probably are more garbage can people now than there were 3 generations ago. Even if it's just because statistically, if like 25% of the population sucks and there's that many more people now, well, there's way more shit people to go through.
With population, like there's so many more people, so there are a lot more shit people, but there were pretty shitty people back then too.
That's true,
and that's just how it goes. We just have now we're just making babies, building our population up. So there's just
I
more
would imagine
shit.
that the same goes for like women. Like I would say the average lady these days, and again, obviously now there's a lot of gender fluidity, and I'm just trying
This
to.
is an opinion. This is not facts.
And you can apply this to however you identify for partners. And maybe that's a better way to look at it. Maybe it's not hoflation or proflation. Maybe it's just like proflation. Like maybe there's just so many more people. I don't know. What do you think? Dating seems really nebulous into 2023.
Dating is, and it's just like dating is different for everybody, and there definitely are guys and girls out there that put a lot of the effort in that they used to back in the day. But in my experience, there's not a lot of guys out there that are putting in 5 times more of the work. I feel like what my grandfather was doing was much harder, like courting, spending time with the family, getting to know, like thinking about her needs, sending her flowers. Like there's not a lot of guys out there doing that. I know my boyfriend isn't doing that.
That sounds like way more work than now that
right.
a guy
like
just
now, like he just
hops in
sends
your
me
DMs.
like he just sends me like an Instagram video
Hey,
of
yo,
like
girl.
hearts, and it's like there, and it's like what the fuck is that?
Or like 2:30 in the morning, you get you up or
Yeah.
what WYD? What you doing?
Like back then, it was like normal for a guy to like wait, and girls were making men wait.
Let me ask
and
you a
it was
question.
just how it was.
Let's say you're single and
Okay.
you're just like out one day at fucking Trader Joe's or something, and like you meet a guy and he's like super polite and he's like, "Excuse me, ma'am," and he acts the way like you would imagine your grandfather would have acted, but he's in 2023.
Like Joe Black.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Joe Black.
And he asks you to like, would you mind if I took you out? And he shows up and he's like wearing like a suit and he's got flowers and he just does this whole thing and he like holds hand open. I mean, not saying chivalry doesn't exist anymore, but like does like an old fashioned date.
I wouldn't know what to do.
Would that be effective on you? Would you be blown away that this guy showed up with flowers and all this stuff? Or would you be kind of like, is this a time cap? Would you be
It's
sort
like
of put off?
I feel like I want to say that I would just be like, oh my God, like these men exist, because of course, like I want someone to like do those things to court me and to like find out what flowers I like, find out what music, what food do I like do all the things that you're talking about. But we're so conditioned now that doesn't happen regularly. Like I think I've dated maybe one guy that was similar to that, not
Right.
just like that, but very similar, very old school, always opened to the door for me, always, kept me on the inside, picked where the dates was very cordial, and it was weird. And so I think we're all conditioned to not know how to react to that.
Sure. Well,
that it's not normal, that we ourselves would be awkward if that happened.
I'll say another thing too. Just so that all the guys out there that don't have like a plan of attack with like I think a lot of that old fashioned dating stuff probably because it was accepted at the time, the norm, and I feel like a lot of women probably felt like if a guy dresses up and opens the car door, brings you flowers, and
He cares.
You kind of just have to like him. for doing all these things right, but the guy himself could be a fucking creep, or the guy could potentially just not be a good fit. He could be socially hard to talk to, but the stereotypical norms of the time said if you have a man that opens the car door and shows up and takes you out and courts you like a gentleman, you need to marry that man. You need to settle down with him and give him a bunch of kids, let him put a baby in you, and like fucking cook him food that you don't like. Like I feel like some of that shit might have led to entrapment. So I'm not saying that like
a lot of divorces or divorces that should have happened.
Yeah.
Nowadays we're so much more progressive, like, I mean, I was in a situationship and a friendship with benefits kind of thing for like a year.
Yeah.
Right. And that was kind of normal, it was like my normal of how it went. And then like miraculously now we are together, when it doesn't always work, but that was like normal for me and I understood it and it was what I was used to and I was comfortable with it until I wasn't. And then we progressed as we do. But I feel like a lot of relationships start out like that. You start off as friends or you're having sex before marriage. You're doing all these things that they weren't doing back then.
Right.
You're doing them now. You're living together.
People move in before. Yeah.
Like that's like the norm with it.
Well, and I think people have to put up with less shit now. Like you're actually allowed to go, I don't like that, or I'm not feeling this. We're not vibing. Like sorry, I'm not feeling like I've known people recently, friends of mine that tried to date and they kind of did. And then they came up, they would sort of just go, hey, you know what? I'm not feeling it. They mutually agree to go on their separate way. It wasn't like one of them got trapped because the other one, and it could work the other way. Maybe they tell a guy, like if you find a woman that can cook and takes care of you and like knows how to like do laundry, you need to marry her and settle down. Like,
or get someone pregnant.
Yeah, exactly.
Right there. Nowadays, like it's
okay to say no. I'm going to go on the record as saying like the whole like the hoflation, broflation kind of a thing. I don't think that anybody has to work 5 times harder. I feel like that point that just sounds funny on a podcast, but I think maybe the part about having 5 times as many people to weed through to find a good one, that could be true.
That it probably is.
But I don't know that necessarily people are putting in more work than they were. I feel like it was a lot of work in the old fashioned times and maybe with less outcome. Maybe you wound up married to somebody you don't really know because of the flowers and the movie and the candy and like the traditional dating or whatever. I think nowadays probably you're a little safer with more options.
Yeah, there's definitely more options out there. So you're weeding through things. So you're not, dating the girl that you knew next door or your parents liked or things like that. Like there's a lot more out there.
Yeah.
And that's why people are getting married later. I'm almost 35, birthday June 15th. Coming up. And I'm not married yet. It's like because it's becoming the norm that we're waiting. We're wanting to live lives. We're not wanting to just like settle and just have babies and that's our life. Like we're wanting to do things. I feel
like maybe there was a point in the last, who knows, maybe the last 1,000 years, but definitely the last like 100 years or 200 years where you almost like sometimes like being married was like a survival tactic. Like people had to get together in order to make it, like either a combined income or like you just needed to put your assets together or whatever. Like I think people are having less, they don't have to do that as much anymore. They just have more options now to not necessarily have to, now it's more like a choice. You just really want to share your life with somebody, but I think it's more possible to be self-sustaining by yourself now. I think it's easier to be single now than it ever has been in the past, I think.
Because we have AI.
Yeah, and see, that's bringing it back around.
Yeah, that's because we have AI. Like you could be lonely and you're working too much, you're too busy, so you got something right there to talk to. You got TikTok with the algorithms. Like I watch a bunch of furniture refurbishing and styling.
Now you can just fire up an app and your phone will lick your butthole in your self-driving car on the way home.
Yeah, just all that.
Screw loneliness. We'll just write loneliness out of existence.
It's right there. That's why you got AI.
Hey Siri, be my girlfriend. Oh my.